I absolutely lack the creativity to make an intro right now, so I'm just going to get into it. I used to walk home not really wanting to get into my house. Now, it sounds a bit confusing by what I just said, but after school, when I was walking home, I didn't really ever want to go home. You know, most kids don't like school. Most kids don't like to stay at school, and they are so ready to head back home so that, they can relax. I was the opposite. I would rather stay at school or out of school, but not at home. The reason was that home didn't really feel like a home. I would leave school after a long day and sit on the coach back to my house. I used to live round Ilford and my school was in Chelmsford, so they were about an hour and a half bus coach away. And whenever there were delays on the coach, I would feel relieved. I'd feel happy that I was able to sit on the coach longer before I got home, because it meant that I was delaying the fact that I got to go home, right? And I wasn't ever really sure why. I just assumed that it was my parents' fault, and that the way that they treated me made me despise being at home, and maybe that was a part of it. But I've decided that I no longer want to blame my parents for the things that I felt or the things that happened to me, because that gives them power over the entire situation. That's not to say I hate them now, of course not. I love my parents. But now that I look at it that way, that if I start blaming them for things that happened to me, it gives them control of the situation rather than giving myself control to fix it. And that became a problem, because only recently, when I decided that I wanted to figure out what it was that made home not feel like a home. And I couldn't really, grasp the idea of what it was and what was happening at the house that was making me not want to come home. And it wasn't my parents. And I was supposed to find something in me that I could change so I can make it feel like a home. And it was me. It was the fact that I had a different role I had to play when I got home versus when I was out of the house. So when I was with my friends, I could be authentic. I could be real. But when I got home, I had to not speak. It's not because my parents didn't tell me to speak. It's just I didn't have anything in common to talk to about with my parents. And I didn't really want to speak to them, because what used to happen was that any conversation we had would always lead back to studies. It would always lead back to, oh, you have this test coming up, or you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. And I never really wanted to have a conversation with them. But then it was only recently where I decided to sit down and, spend some time with my parents, with my little brother, where I was starting to, talk a bit more authentically to them. Tell them the truth. Because when you don't tell someone the truth, you have secrets. You have 100 different identities that you could be. And it means that you're unable to be you and be comfortable. And that's something that I had for ages, because I kept lying. I would never tell the truth. I would never tell the real stories, the real events, because I didn't want my parents to get mad at me. But it was only recently when I started really telling them how I felt, or the things I was doing, and being true and authentic and honest to them, is when I made my home really feel like a home. And that's been something that's been really relieving to me, because it means that I can get up and work. It means I can get up and be more focused and be more comfortable and be more authentic. And I've been a happier individual because of that. Before I had this conversation with my parents, I fell off. Self-improvement wasn't working for me. I didn't feel... I had no motivation to move forward, especially when I was at home. I thought, okay, maybe I need to move somewhere before, I can start working. But it wasn't because of my parents. It was because of me. And it was only when I had that conversation with them, when I really started listening to their stories, and I had my own stories to tell, things that I remembered, things that they remembered, and improved our relationship. It was only then where the motivation to move forward came back, that willpower refurbished itself. And I guess that's something that you can do. Because if you really want to feel comfortable at home and you've been experiencing the same feelings that I did, it's not a good feeling, is it? But if you have been experiencing those things, and it's difficult, I know what I'm about to say is really difficult, go down and speak to them. Have a conversation. Start anything in any way. And then that way you can really be more comfortable being around your family. Because frankly enough, family is the most important thing. Some friends can be considered family. Those people are the people that you keep close. Those people you love unconditionally. And I know it can become a problem when you have fallings out between families, because there's sometimes you have to cut them off because sometimes they're pulling you back. But if you want to make your home a home, then the best way is to be true and authentic. And if you find out that your parents eventually accept that, because they might not in the short term, but in the long term they do, your home will always be a home. So hopefully that's been of value to you, to help you, go speak to your parents. Go say hi to your mum for once. Thank her for the cooking that she did. Listen to her stories. Listen to your dad's stories. Thank them for being so hardworking. And maybe take their advice once in a while. Listen to them. Because they have the experience and all they're doing is trying to help you. So keep that in mind. Thank you for listening, man.